Hey YouTube, this is Vanning Mike here. Today we're going to install some gauges. We've got the Bosch set, the triple gauge set of the volt, water temperature, and oil pressure. I didn't want to put these things just anywhere, so let's take a look at our dash, see where we might put some gauges in and make it look factory. Alright, here's our dash of our 1978 G20 Chevy van. You'll notice over here at the steering wheel there are two dummy spots here. You'll also notice I've drilled out one hole for the oil pressure. We're going to drill the other one out for the water temperature, and then we'll figure out where the voltmeter goes. My engine is here. It's a brand new 406 small block Chevy, and we just want to keep track of all the pressure. I did take the radio out. My first thought was I'd put the gauges here, and then I thought with two voids in the dash, I'll figure out maybe someplace down here. I've got to put in a manual choke, and we may put the voltmeter right here. So let's commence with the hole drilling. Okay, here's our dash. It's on the workbench here. Got a couple clamps to hold it in place. This is plastic and it's cheap. Don't go crimping down real tight on this. You just want the dash just tight enough not to be moving around. If you break your dash, it's your own fault. Just nice and snug is all you need. You're going to need a couple things. You're going to need some duct tape. I use Gorilla brand tape. I like it. I think it's the best duct tape there is. You're going to need a Dremel tool. You're going to need the cutting bit on there, and you're going to need the sanding bit to finish up the holes. All right. Your pattern for the your template rather for the holes is already here in your 3 gauge cluster bracket. I've already drilled out the first one here. Do not tape the bracket down and just go to cutting 3 pieces. You want to match it up to the other dummy slot here. Fortunately, the gauges you can see are about the same size as the hole. So when that gets in there, that's going to look almost factory. So that's our goal. You're going to put the cutting bit in. You're going to put it up against the bracket for the gauge, and you're going to go around in a circle. You're going to use light pressure, and you're going to make about 7 or 8 passes around this circle. Don't try to drill all the way through at one time. This plastic is actually a 1/4 inch thick at these points to hold other factory gauges that weren't in this dash. You'll be better off if you just make circular passes and just take a little material out as you go. So let's get this going. Okay, I want to stop the video to show you a couple things. As we're getting down in here, you'll notice that the bit has a shaft in it. You do not want your bit to drop below the bracket and then into the shaft. That'll make your hole wider than the gauge and it won't fit. What I'm doing now is after I've gone 3 or 4 passes, I'm using the beveled edge on the inside now to brace the blade ends instead of on the outside of the bracket. That way you'll ensure that your hole is exactly the same size as the bracket. Let's continue drilling. out our hole. Let's do a test fit of our gauge. And at this time, if you need to, go ahead and do not use the cutting tool anymore. Go ahead and switch to the sanding wheel. Don't forget to shut your Dremel tool or unplug it. I've neglected to do that, but be safe with your Dremel tool. You're not trying to take any more material off, you're just trying to make smooth the thing. Now, okay, so at this point we can undo our brackets, our clamps rather. Take our duct tape off of our gauge cluster bracket. This is also a good opportunity if you plan on painting your dash. Go ahead and paint it up. All right, so you see we have the old material out. Turn this around so you can see what we got. So we're going to put our oil pressure in here and our water temperature in this slot. All right, that's it. Let's get this back in the van. All right, when we last left the project, we had these two holes drilled in the dash of the 1978 G20. We had talked about finding a place for the temperature gauge. So I decided instead of going here, I would just go in an even line here. There's a symmetrical feel to this, 3 rows of openings. So there's no ventilation or brackets like this. This is what you want to know when you are about to drill into your dash. Make sure you have access to that. Okay, so now that our dash cover is back on, there is 2 areas back here that do not allow our gauge to go all the way through. So we're going to have to cut that out, dash off, and you can see the factory holes for the gauges that were never installed. So we're going to take a Dremel tool and we are going to cut out this square area here on both sides, and hopefully that'll recess the gauges inside far enough. Again, make sure there is nothing underneath your dash that'll prevent it. We talked about the gauge locations themselves. In this van, the doghouse sits here over the motor, and so gauges are not an option there. I didn't want to sit them all up on top of the dash. Maybe we'll put a tachometer over here later, but I have to have a manual choke put in, and I don't want the gauges down by my knees. You can see from my point of view that the steering wheel covers any of the gauge sidings, so the dash was the only option for this. All right, let's go ahead and get cutting. Okay, here's where we left off. We were going to take a Dremel tool and hollow out the squares here. You can see I've done that, and I've carved out some of the plastic here as well. Sorry about the glare. It's always in the evening time when I get a chance to work on this. So the gauges are in. Just use the factory brackets that came in the package. Go ahead and run your oil pressure wire and your ammeter wires, your voltage wires. You can see that I've got the temperature gauge already wired in. My truck is at idle, and so the water is up at 220. It's been running at about 170, 160. It's about 50 degrees here in Virginia today. All right, so after you get your gauges in, just place the cluster back down. You'll button up all of the air conditioning stuff, and your final result should look like that. So that's all we've got. Just wanted to show you my my gauges here. From my standpoint of view here in the seat, this is what I see from the dash, and the least important to me was the voltage. You can protect an engine, water temperature, and oil pressure better than you can losing the voltage. So just a slight turn of the head and you get to see all three. All right, that's it for today, and we'll see you next time.